One of the biggest things to consider when choosing your next cruise is the destination itself. I mean, this single factor, this one thing dictates everything from the activities you'll enjoy to the culture you'll immerse yourself in. So let's talk about it. Destination diversity. Thinking about something beyond the Caribbean or the Mexican coast. We're going to look at exotic regions like the Med, Hawaii, Alaska, South Pacific, Asia, the Baltic, or even the Antarctic if you're really up for an adventure. These destinations are the next level in cruising. Amazing views, adventure beyond belief, culture, food, wine, dining. Some of the greatest sights in the entire world can be seen from a cruise ship. So when you think about what's next, you've done the Caribbean. I love the Caribbean and I will continue to cruise the Caribbean. But there comes a time where you want a little something different. You want to see Rome. You want to see Venice and England and Ireland and Scotland and Italy and France. And that's when you start looking for the next level. I'm not saying that they're necessarily better than, but they're different. They give you a different experience, if that makes sense. So choose that destination first. Next important factor, let's put it that way. The seasonal timing. Different destinations require visiting in different times of the year. You're not going to go on a Mediterranean cruise in January. You're also probably not going to go to Alaska in January. So when you go there will depend on the time of year. Mediterranean cruises you want to do in the summer. You can do spring and fall. It's a little bit brisker, but it's also a little less crowded. Alaska, you really want to do during the height of the summer for the most part. There's shoulder seasons. There's, lots of details we can get into, but in general, find out when that region that you want to go to has their summer. That's when you want to go there. You don't want to go to the Caribbean. Well, I mean, you can go to the Caribbean in July and August, but it's 100 degrees and it's getting into hurricane season. So you might want to avoid that. But there are lots of other places you can go. Check out the seasons. Short and sweet. Probably a little too long to be short. But speaking of short versus long, choosing the right length of cruise depends on your experience, your available time off if you're still working, the amount of money you want to spend. There are lots of factors. Generally, 7-night cruises are kind of a standard. But there are longer cruises that have an absolutely amazing itinerary. If you're going to do a repositioning cruise, in general, those are not 7-nighters. In general, they're 10, 12, 15, 18 nights, depending upon, where you're leaving from and where you're going to. Think about how much time you want to be away from home, and that will begin to guide you in the right direction. If you can go for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, okay, that's awesome. If you only have a long weekend, okay, there are 3 and 4 night cruises too. So figure that information out. Look at the destination, find the right season, figure out the right cruise length for you. You have to, start narrowing down your options. Okay. The next thing to look at is the ship size. Okay. Anybody that's followed cruising in any way, shape, or form for the last decade knows that there are mega ships that hold 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people. And then there are the more traditional smaller ships that hold 2,000, 2,500, some even smaller than that. There are advantages to each. You have to choose what kind of cruising you like, what's important to you. You go on the mega ships if you're looking for amazing entertainment and a quantity of entertainment and activities. You go on a smaller ship if you want a more intimate experience and you want to see ports that those large ships can't get to. The Icon of the Seas is never going to port in, Barbados. Well, I can't say never, but they're not able to now because the docking terminal isn't big enough. So you're going to see different destinations on smaller ships than you are on larger ships. Okay. And next up, amenities and activities. Again, this ties into the type of ship you're on, as well as the brand of cruise ship you're on. Carnival, known as the fun ship. Lots of activities, lots of amenities, lots of things to do, water slides and comedians and Broadway-esque shows and on and on and on. Royal Caribbean, same thing. You go on Cunard, you go on Holland America. Those ships are known more for their not highbrow. They're more classy, more refined. They don't necessarily have 85 things to do at any given moment of the day or night. They do have fine dining. They do have live shows. They just don't have 83 of them going on. There's going to be arguably more things that are included for the cost. Speaking of costs, next item, budgeting. Can't forget budgeting. Different brands of cruise lines and different sizes of ships and different destinations all come with different price tags. Right now, the Icon of the Seas is arguably the newest ship, and those rooms are going for a pretty penny. because it's the latest and the greatest and the biggest and the best. If you don't need to be on the latest and the greatest and the biggest and the best, and you're happy with a smaller ship that's a little bit more intimate, if you're happy with something that's a little bit more luxurious, a little bit more all-inclusive, that's a different price point. Figure out how much you want to spend, but please don't fall for the TV commercials that say you can do a 7-night Caribbean cruise or a 7-night cruise wherever for $99 a person per night, because that's the hook. That's how they get you to the website. And then they add this fee, and then they add that fee, and then if you want to choose your own room, it's another fee. Be realistic. If you have no idea what cruises cost, give me a call or call your favorite travel agent. They'll be able to guide you as to what you can expect to spend. Next topic of consideration, special interests. You would be absolutely blown away by the number and variety of themed cruises that are out there. If you're a audiophile? No, that's not the right term. If you're a wine connoisseur and you want to go on a cruise where you're going to be tasting wines morning, noon, and night, they have that cruise. If you're a 60s love, peace, and happiness hippie type of person, they got cruises for that. Are you a person that likes to crochet and do needlepoint? They have cruises for that. If you have a special hobby or a special interest, arguably you're going to be able to find a cruise that has that as its theme for the week. Next thing to consider when looking at where to cruise next is the excursions. You're going to find very different excursions, arguably, if you're doing a Mediterranean cruise in, Rome and Barcelona and Santorini than you are if you're doing an Alaskan cruise. Say you absolutely love to snorkel or scuba, and that's all you like to do besides floating on the big ship. Well, then that's going to narrow the types of cruise you go on, because very few people do snorkeling in Alaska or Antarctica or, the Norwegian fjords. So those types of excursions can limit what your options are. The next area to think about is what cabin type. Everybody has their preferences. Interior cabins, ocean views, balconies, suites, 2-bedroom suites, family suites, and there's a billion things in between. Figure out which one is a must-have. My wife and I, we prefer ocean view. We love balconies, absolutely love balconies, but we're willing to do the ocean view rooms to save some money so we can go on more cruises, if that makes sense. Some people, like Alaskan cruise, we're getting a balcony room, period. We're going to get a balcony room because that way we can enjoy the spectacles, the views, without having to share them with 2,000 or 3,000 of our favorite people up on the main pool deck. Next point of thought, cultural immersion. How much do you want to experience the cultures of the areas you're going to? If all you're there to do is snorkel and party and cultural learning is not really your thing, well then, honestly, don't even worry about it. But if you like to learn about local cultures and their culinary expertise and their traditions and their history, the type of culture you want to immerse yourself in will guide you as to which type of cruise to take. River cruises in Europe are going to give you much more cultural immersion than arguably an Alaskan cruise, because river cruises in Europe, you get off the ship 7, 8, 9 in the morning and you don't have to get back on until 8, 9, 10 at night, because your next port of call is 100 miles downriver and it takes them 4 hours to get there. Whereas Alaska, it might be a day or two at sea or 3 days at sea with some, at sea viewing. So you're not necessarily going to be able to immerse yourself in the culture as much. Next topic, family friendly options. If it's just, you and your honey, ignore this one. Plug your ears for about 30 seconds. If you're thinking about doing a family reunion, or you're traveling with your kids and grandkids, or whatever that family situation is. Family cruises are potentially different from cruises where it's just you and your significant other, or you and a friend. You have to think about, what are the kids going to do? What's grandmom and grandpop going to do? Is there something for everybody to do? That type of ship is not necessarily going to be the same as if it's just you and the person that you spent 30 years with. Next topic, eco-friendly cruises. If sustainable travel is a high priority in your life, there are cruise lines that are farther down that road than others. Arguably the more luxury brands, because their ships are smaller, it's easier for them to make adjustments to alter and lower their environmental impact. So for that type of cruise, the more eco-friendly, you're going to want to look at some of the smaller, more luxury cruise lines, which arguably not a bad thing because it's luxury. Next topic, onboard experience. The mass market brands are not known necessarily for their luxury. There are some luxurious areas on those ships, but the entire ship is not devoted to that. So the dining is going to be good. It's not going to be absolutely phenomenal in general. The spa services, same situation. Entertainment's going to be good, and it's going to have a lot of variety, but it's not necessarily going to be as talented. I don't know how to say that, but what that onboard experience, what you want it to be, is something to think about. Unique ports of call. Unique ports of call are not mass market. If you want to go to the Galapagos Islands, you're not going to find the mega ships necessarily going there. These are going to be more smaller, more luxury, more expedition type ships. Going into the smaller fjords in Norway, some of the less well-traveled islands of the South Pacific. Smaller ships, smaller cruise lines, the more luxury end of things. You're going to have better luck with those cruise lines versus the ones that specialize in arguably Costa Maya, St. Thomas, St. Martin, and the list goes on. That's kind of some things to think about. Now that you know how to pick that next destination, let's talk about getting packed for the trip. Check out this deep dive video I did recently on what not to pack on that next cruise.